If you think about the elements you'd need to build the ideal law firm, you'd need excellence in legal practice, excellence in courtroom presence, excellence in legal services, and excellence in customer service. And when you think about what's going on in the legal landscape, it's severely lacking in Seattle. I'm Sean Coutain, the founder and managing attorney of Seattle Defense, Seattle's only concierge criminal defense practice. I was fortunate enough to be accepted to Harvard Law School. The clinical programs at Harvard Law School are what really set the school apart. I participated in the Criminal Justice Institute for 2 years, and it was a fantastic opportunity for me as a law student to actually get into criminal court in Boston and observe highly talented defense attorneys taking on cases, to assist them, to eventually get some cases of my own, and learn the difference between the theoretical aspect of practicing law and the actual courtroom skills required to be a successful trial attorney. There's no better way to start your career than learning the tricks of the trade from the best in the business. After graduating from Harvard, I had the opportunity to do that at one of the largest and most well-known law firms in the world. And there I was able to work on highly sophisticated cases from a young age, representing celebrities, athletes, chief executive officers, chief financial officers, board members. I spent a decade working on some of the most sophisticated cases with the most experienced trial lawyers imaginable, learning how to be a courtroom advocate, learning how to do excellent written legal work, learning how to pay attention to detail, how to build case strategy. It's an excellent foundation for what's been ultimately a more than 20-year career. I got to learn firsthand what it takes to successfully defend someone in a high-pressure situation where there's media, where there's stress, where there's scrutiny of every detail of the case. I understood the attention to detail required to mount a successful defense. In those early years, I noticed two things. First, the attention to detail the lawyers paid to those cases was absolutely incredible. No stone was left unturned. No detail was too small to be attended to, and that's the level of practice I bring to my clients. The second thing I noticed was the level of service was simply unparalleled. Every call went immediately returned, every question answered, every client picked up, driven to the meetings, driven back. It didn't matter what the issue was, there was always someone there to attend to it. After a decade in that space, I decided to become a public defender. I wanted to build out my skill set by spending more time in the courtroom and working on a larger variety of cases. One of the things I noticed was the absolute contrast between the practice I had left and the attention to detail versus what I was able to do as a public defender. I was just not able to provide the level of service that I'd become accustomed to. The issue is that the caseloads are simply too high. People will ask, should I hire an attorney? Should I go with a public defender? I mean, public defenders are great, very talented attorneys, but if you've got 50 serious felony cases, that means each of your clients can only get 2% of your time. It was extremely frustrating because I was the same attorney with the same expectations of what a case should get, and just simply unable to provide it because of the caseload. The average person who's never been accused of a crime thinks about criminal defense the same way we see it on TV and in the movies. You know, these dramatic courtroom battles and gotcha questions. The truth is the vast majority of criminal cases resolve with some kind of plea. So when you're thinking about a criminal case, you have to be strategic. That's why attention to detail and thorough investigation is so critical. In order to get the best outcome, you have to be able to show the state the weaknesses in their case before trial. If you can show up and say, look, we've interviewed all of these witnesses, we've had our experts go to the scene of the crime, we have all this forensic evidence, we have all of this evidence that undermines your theory of the case, and you're not likely to win a trial, that puts us in a much stronger position in terms of trying to negotiate a good outcome, either a dismissal or a vastly reduced charge, or a short sentence. So thinking about it from that perspective, where cases are won and lost up front in the preparation and not in the courtroom, is a much more realistic way to think about cases. Because it's not like on TV where your lawyer's going to win the trial by having some kind of aha moment in the courtroom that gets the jury to gasp and be like, oh, gotcha. It just doesn't happen that way. All the work is up front. All the work is in the preparation and the investigation and the attention to detail of understanding the strategy, understanding the facts, understanding the strengths and weaknesses of both sides. That's how you get the best outcome you can for your clients. The advantage of hiring someone who's been practicing a long time is perspective. Perspective is critical when evaluating a case, because if you haven't seen these types of cases a number of times before, it's harder for you to judge what the likely outcome is going to be. It's harder for you to judge what's going to be important, what type of evidence is going to be important, what kind of strategy is most likely to succeed. And so having a perspective on the best way to reach your client's goals comes from time, comes from a volume of cases. I've handled well over 1,000 criminal cases in state and federal court over a multi-decade career. A quality legal representation is basically the floor. That's the expectation that all customers have. However, quality legal representation in the courtroom is not the only element that matters. If you look at law firms that have negative reviews, if you look at law firms that have unhappy clients, the complaints are not usually about the legal practice. The complaints are about the service. I call my lawyer, it takes them forever to get back to me. I don't know what's going on with my case. I didn't know where to go when I got to the courthouse. I created Seattle Defense because the most important element in successful defense is time. Time spent on the case, time spent in the details, time spent providing excellent service to your clients. I had the frustration of not being able to do that when I was a public defender. And I remember how rewarding it was to be able to do that. Seattle Defense was born out of my mission to bring that level of service to a boutique criminal defense practice. If you're deeply invested in the outcome of your case and you need an attorney with a high level of experience, a high level of attention to detail, and unmatched customer service, then Seattle Defense is the firm for you.